Iowa's News Now Sports has your all-access pass to all things Hawkeyes. This is Eye on the Hawks, sponsored by University of Iowa Healthcare.
Some games are bigger than others, but at the same time, it's 120 yards long, the field. We're still going to be using a brown ball. Nothing is really going to change. Yeah, there's going to be different matchups and things like that, but it's really just been business as usual.
Hard to believe that was true, but friend of the program, Matt VandeBerg, is here in the studio to shed some light on whether or not the build-up to a Big Ten championship game is truly just business as usual. Welcome to another episode of Eye on the Hawks. Matt, you played in that 2015 Big Ten championship game. Is this week really just like any other week, or can the team feel a little bit of a different aura around this game?
I mean, there's a different aura because you're playing for a championship, but KF's message to the team is going to be this is business as usual. And the main reason is it's all built on consistency. You want to go in with the same fervor that you've gone in with the last 12 games, knowing that you earned an opportunity to play a 13th. This game isn't guaranteed. This is something that just got added on at the end of the season. So knowing that you earned another opportunity to play, really once you start doing like the real pregame warm-up, like the team pregame warm-up, then you start to understand like, okay, now I got to lock in because now it's time to go. But there are times just kind of like, you know, going into the fourth quarter against Wisconsin, you want to soak in the jump around. Like it's a really cool tradition. Or first quarter at Kinnick, the wave, you want to take that in. There's going to be times to take in what they're playing for, but at the same time, I mean, this team has shown great resiliency throughout the entire season. I expect it to just be business as usual.
Well, prior to the season, Iowa was a heavy favorite to win the Big Ten West, so at face value, it's no big surprise to see the Hawks back in the title game. But when you consider the injuries this team has suffered to some of its best players, it feels like this team has defied all the odds to reach Indianapolis.
We played 12 games just trying to get to this point. Want that 13th one, and we're here. So, I mean, it means a lot, and we're really grateful for the opportunity.
It's going to be a little bit of a circus-like environment in Indianapolis in general. So we've spoken about those things, but in terms of football, nothing's really changed. It's just Michigan's our opponent this week, and we're going to do everything we can to beat them.
Now, Matt, you got to make history with your 2015 team as the first Iowa squad to ever play in a Big Ten championship game. If you could give this team one piece of advice before they step on that field, what would it be? I'd
say enjoy the environment and then go do what you do. Like at the end of the day, when you're out there and you're on the field, you're just playing ball with 10 of your boys. Like that's really all it is. Now there's a different color uniform, it's a different environment, and like Tori just said, like it's kind of a circus, but knowing that it really comes down to the 10 guys on the field that are with you and the other 60-some players that are on the sideline, and then the coaches. Like that's really all that matters when you enter that building. Obviously you want to feed off the fans and stuff like that. Iowa's probably going to drink all the beer out of all the bars, but like the ability to have that kind of following and then knowing that everybody has your back, just go out there and play loose. There's no pressure. There's nothing that you really need to do outside of go play football.
Well, for Iowa, it's their third appearance in the Big Ten title game. For Michigan, same story. Third time for the Maize and Blue, all coming in the last 3 seasons. Saturday's game will be a rematch of the 2021 game when Iowa got worked 42-3 in front of the biggest crowd in the history of a Big Ten championship. A lot of players from this year's team remember that game well and are hoping to draw on that experience to bring a different outcome this Saturday.
I mean, obviously we just got outplayed and outcoached and out-executed, and so, it's just going to be up to us again this year to, kind of handle things better, prepare better.
I would say we gave our all 2 years ago as well, right? And that's how the game turned out. So how much more could we do from 2 years ago to give us a better chance to win this year?
A lot of the same players are around as they had 2 years ago. Does that motivate Iowa in any way, the way that they got embarrassed on that field a couple of years ago?
Anytime you go out there and you don't execute the way you feel like you should, I mean, that's definitely gonna harbor in you for a little bit, and a chance for a rematch, like you mentioned, to go out there and actually do what you feel like you're capable of doing. But not only that, now they've got 2 players from the other side that were on that team, and it's like, hey, this is how you handle the environment. This is how you go in there and win a game like this. Nobody on this team has won a championship in that fashion, myself included. And so, like, to have somebody that's been through it and be like, this is how we handled it in order to go out and perform at that kind of level, this is what we need to do moving forward, I think they've got a good opportunity.
Yeah. Well, Vegas odds makers are well on the side of the Wolverines at the moment. Iowa's a 23-point underdog, the biggest odds they've faced in a game all season. The doubters are out there, facing a team that's nearly a lock for the college football playoff. Iowa's players know that this is the David versus Goliath caliber matchup.
Oh, we know. Yeah, we know it's out there. Everyone's kind of already talking about, like, who's Michigan going to play in the playoff this year, and that's fine. Like, keep doubting us because we've been doubted all year, Yeah, we love being the underdog, and we're just going to go in there with nothing to lose and have some fun as well. It's a great environment, nothing to lose, and yeah, that's what it's all about.
We've been on that end the whole season, so we like it like that. So we always embrace diversity and everything like that. So, I mean, it's all really just fun. Just keep on proving people wrong.
Matt, how much of a factor can that be in the mind of a player? Speaking to these guys on Tuesday, they said that they know the world is betting against them. Does that does that drive some sort of a motivation in the locker room?
There's a point to it for sure, but we mentioned the 2015 team, and I think this team shows a lot of characteristics of that in terms of next man in. You've got a lot of adversity in terms of injuries. You've got the coaching thing that's obviously circling the program. Yeah. You've got all these different things that are counted against them, and yet they find a way to win the games that you're not supposed to, or you find a way to win the close ones. 2015, we were 11-0 going into Nebraska, and we only win by 1 score, right? And we were supposed to be a shoo-in for the college football playoff, but for whatever reason, Iowa likes close games, and if they can keep this kind of mentality of like, all we have to do is keep it close, and we're going to have a shot going into the fourth quarter, I think they have the opportunity to do that.
Does this year's team remind you at all of the Iowa women's team playing South Carolina in the Final Four? Because that too, heading into that game, that also was treated like a David versus Goliath matchup.
Yeah, and the Iowa women came out and showed out. It became a close game, and obviously you lean on your stars in those games. I expect LaShawn Williams to carry the ball probably 20, 25 times. Caleb Johnson, a heavy dose of those two guys. But defensively, I mean, we don't give up a lot of points. They don't give up a lot of points. I think it's going to try and be able to use their aggressiveness against them to try and get them there. I mean, they're all hyped up and looking at next week. I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawkeyes play spoiler a little bit.
All right, well, we'll keep that in mind. Then the Hawkeyes have kept their fans on the edge of their collective seat this season. 9 of their 12 games have been decided by 10 points or less. 4 of their last 5 have been decided by 3 points or less. Grinding out close games is exactly how Iowa got here and exactly how they'd like to keep it on Saturday.
We prepare all year long for games like that. That's our big thing, is taking teams to deep water. And when we get them in those situations like that, we know teams aren't as comfortable as we are. We expect games to be like that. We like when games get tough like that, when games get grimy and who could out-tough the other team by the end of the game. We feel like teams start to get softer at that point, and we come alive at those points.
That's the beauty of football, but the challenge this week's going to be to get it in that fourth quarter, where it is competitive, and at least we've had experience at that, and that may be one of their downsides. They haven't had a lot of that experience.
You just keep on fighting, keep on playing. You just keep on playing, and it's never over. The game's never over. There's 60 minutes in a ball game, and we play every single of those seconds. So, the game's never over for us.
Man, I can never tell if teams love it or hate it, but this team does seem to keep it tight week after week. That's been the case all year. We heard Nico talk about it, but why do you think this team plays so well when it comes down to the wire?
Well, and I think it's the foundation that KF and really Coach Doyle put in. When I was there, the main compliment you could get as an Iowa football player was to be a finisher. Whether you finish the catch, you finish the block, you finish the run, you finish the quarter, you finish the game. And that's really what this team has clicked to. Like, when it comes to the fourth quarter, they are going to finish, outside of one invalid loss that I'm not going to talk about anymore. But everything comes down to finishing, and this group finishes.
I'm really just grateful to kind of be a part of it and have fun. And I'm sure those guys are going to have a hard decision moving forward. But it's really kind of awkward to talk about. Sorry.
He's the GOAT with a heart of gold from the Gold Coast. Tory Taylor and Cooper DeJean are stacking postseason awards from the Big Ten, and there might be more to come. That's after the break on Eye on the Hawks. Cooper DeJean is named the Big Ten Defensive Back and Return Specialist of the Year despite missing the final 2 regular season games. Tory Taylor named the Big Ten Punter of the Year. DeJean and Jay Higgins earned first-team All-Big Ten honors. Sebastian Castro on the second-team honors for the media. 3 Hawkeyes named to the third-team defense or special teams, and 7 Hawkeyes earn honorable mention honors. It's award season in the Big Ten, and for Tory Taylor, he's also Iowa's first-ever finalist for the Ray Guy Award, given to the best punter in America.
I don't necessarily like talking about myself in that regard, but there's been a lot of guys that have performed at a really high level. But to answer your question, I think a lot of it kind of comes down to impact in games, and I don't really know what other guys have done. You can really only see the stats, but at the end of the day, it is a stats game. So I'm really just grateful to kind of be a part of it and have fun. And I'm sure those guys are going to have a hard decision.
Well, that Ray Guy finalist wearing black and gold, he's been a staunch supporter of kicker Drew Stevens, who was a semifinalist for the Lou Groza Award, but has had a rough 2 weeks, missing 4 kicks against Rutgers and Nebraska, eventually getting pulled in favor of Marshall Meter for the game winner against Nebraska. But Drew is listed as a starter on Iowa's depth chart this weekend, and his teammates are rallying around him in the midst of his on-field struggles.
Really just for him, it's keeping his head up and pushing forward. You know, there's going to be times again where we need him to kick, and he needs to be ready. But as long as you're in the positive, I feel like that's the most important thing. And this is a great opportunity for Drew to learn. It's a great opportunity for us to get around him and for me as well to kind of step up and say, hey, you know, everything's going to be all right. Everyone makes mistakes.
As good as Nate Kading was, he's missed a few too, you know. So I mean, it's you just got to move on. You got to block it out. That's really the trick. It's not a matter of can you do it, can you block it out. If you dwell on that, you know, forget about next week because you're going to be terrible. Yeah, and I think that's a lesson, and we'll find out. Hopefully, it was a great week of practice.
Were you surprised to see Drew Stevens listed as a starter this week? I mean, I know you're getting into the coaching realm a little bit over at Solon. As a coach, I mean, do you stick with a hot hand like Marshall Meter, who just came off that big game winner, or do you go back to your guy Drew, who's made the kicks for you all season?
I think you go back to your guy Drew. I think he gets first crack at it. Not only that, but you talk about in the kickoff game, and I don't believe Meter's got the same leg that Drew does. Mm-hmm. I think going into the Nebraska game, I think he was 30 touchbacks on 40 kickoffs. Like, I mean, that's also a weapon, you know, to know that and to give your offense a weapon where they don't have to, you know, you can set up for a 55-yarder and he might have an opportunity. I mean, I talked to him and I think he's good from 60. So I think he gives you more in terms of leg strength and that ability, but he's also a competitor. You got to flush it and then move on to the next, and he's got a lot of guys in the building that'll help him.
Really well coached, play extremely hard, and you know, it's been tough to find any kind of weakness or things that they don't do well.
Well coached, he says, perhaps with a wink. After the break, the look ahead of the Maize and Blue and what the Hawkeyes will run into this Saturday at Lucas Oil Stadium. That's next on Eye on the Hawks. Welcome back to Eye on the Hawks. This week, Matt and his wife Laura had the opportunity to chat with Kade McNamara for their podcast, Talking Hawks with the VandeBergs. Here's a snippet of their conversation with the Michigan transfer.
Well, I think this week specifically, I'm not just getting Deacon ready, I'm getting the entire team as much as I can because, I mean, I know so much about that other team. Yeah. That from a defensive standpoint, from an offensive standpoint, I'm just doing everything I possibly can from an entire team standpoint to just let these guys know everything that I possibly know. And, you know, obviously with Deacon specifically, I'm able to help them out with, you know, some schematics that they run and some things that they might try and do. Any which way I can possibly help this week, I'm doing it. So this week, I mean, it feels like I'm playing this week, but yeah, I'm excited.
I'm really curious to hear some of your takeaways after talking to Kade. We haven't heard a lot from him since he went down with that season-ending injury. Give us at least a little bit of a taste of your conversation with him. How is he doing mentally right now?
He's a guy that takes adversity well. He was talking about there's hills and valleys. He's like, in Michigan, you know, I hit a peak. You know, I got to the mountain when we won the Big Ten championship. They beat Ohio State for the first time in I think like 7 or 8 years. And then the valley of how that whole thing went down. You'll have to check out the podcast to figure out more. How that whole thing went down in a valley where he went back, did rehab, entered the transfer portal, then hit a peak again where he feels, you know, pretty healthy, being at Iowa, being excited. First pass is a touchdown to Seth Anderson. Yep. Then a valley again as he goes through another injury rehab. But he's kind of a guy that just takes it and goes. His best friend is Joe Evans, who, as we know, is one of the top leaders on the team. So to have that kind of guy in your back pocket, I think is a good thing too.
Well, outside of the college football playoff, the Michigan football team has only lost one game over the last 3 seasons. 2 straight perfect regular seasons. A juggernaut awaits Iowa and Indianapolis. Curtis Fader joins us in the studio with a breakdown of this dangerous Michigan offense.
The Hawkeyes knew that a juggernaut would stand between them and a Big Ten title, and that juggernaut turns out to be Michigan, a team that a few Iowa players know quite well, those being injured Kade McNamara and Eric All. Hopefully some useful information can be shared since allegedly the Wolverines already know a lot about their opponents. Perfection is going to be required on defense and special teams for the Hawks, especially against a top 20 scoring Michigan offense with an elite running back in Blake Corum, who has torched many defensive fronts in his career. He now has the most rushing TDs in a single season in Michigan history, but rightfully so. The biggest question mark is, even if the defense plays well, how is Iowa going to put points on the board? This will be by far the toughest defense the Hawkeyes will face. Michigan's defensive unit is second in the nation in points allowed, giving up 10.25 points per game, even less than what Iowa has allowed against their Big Ten West schedule. The biggest key will be the ability to move the football, maybe even just 20 yards to get field goals or red zone touchdowns off of elite defense and special teams play to try to keep it close and create some late magic in Indy.
Matt, let's talk about America's team. I know you've done your homework. What will be Iowa's biggest stumbling block on offense or defense against Michigan?
I'd actually rather face this offense as opposed to Ohio State.
Really?
Because they want to run the football.
Yeah.
I'd rather face a running football team as opposed to a passing football team. So along with that, as long as we've got some discipline rushing on the outside, you know, with a elusive quarterback like that, you got to rush the passer a little bit different because you can't let him break contain, because that's when you get a little soft on the back end. But another thing that helps Iowa is that we're more of a zone match team as opposed to a true man-to-man. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got somebody waiting for him, like a Sebastian Castro or a Jay Higgins waiting to lay that hit as he's trying to roll out.
Still to come, we hear from a player who's more than a little stitious, and our championship week game picks from around the nation. Stay with us here on Eye on the Hawks.
The past 6 years, I've stood in the same spot for the Swarm. I go in the back row all the way to the left. I don't know, I'm a very superstitious guy. Like, if you watch me during the games, I do some things like over and over. And when I was younger, I have like pancakes before every single game. Yeah, I'm just superstitious, so that's my spot. Like, I step in the 30 like 3 times every time. I don't know what it is about it. I've done it since high school, but every time I go by the 0, if I go by it, I have to step in the 0 3 times. And if I mess it up, I will go back in it and do it. Okay. Or I feel like I'll make a mistake, you know what I'm saying? Not a good way to do things in life, but I can't mess with it at this point, you know?
You still eat pancakes pregame?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
My mom used to make me chocolate chip pancakes every Friday before school in high school, so.
Just a glimpse inside the enigmatic mind of Nico Ragaini. Matt VandeBerg back with us on Eye on the Hawks. Matt, any superstitions that you can speak of from your days as a Hawkeye?
Nothing like super crazy. I did get a stuffed teddy bear from Laura for Valentine's Day.
Precious.
And then I brought that with me to every game.
Really?
In my backpack.
Okay.
Well, I guess I did do one thing now that I think about it.
Okay.
I read one Bible verse. It was Joshua chapter 1, verses 1 through 9. Essentially how he takes over for Moses, and now it's like his job to move forward. And then George Kittle would take my Bible and read a couple verses of his own. So, I mean, there were a few things, I guess, like that, but not like every time I see the 30, I got to step in a 0. You'll see him do this a lot. He does this so like when he's standing in the huddle, like
Really?
pushing his gloves. Yeah, you'll see that. I've definitely noticed that.
Okay. Well, let's now get into our championship week game picks. First, the Big 12 title game is at 11 a.m. on Saturday. Texas is 11-1 and could still make the playoff with some help. Longhorns are 14.5-point favorites in Arlington against Oklahoma State. Matt, who takes this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna take Texas. I don't think OK State's got it.
Pretty safe pick, I think, to stick with Texas in this one. Next, the SEC championship, which is going to be possibly Texas's future destination. The game is on CBS 2. Top-ranked Georgia, undefeated, trying for a three-peat as national champs. They take on Alabama. Georgia only a 6-point favorite here. Who do you like in this one?
Both interesting games last week. Georgia was a little bit closer than I think they wanted in Alabama on 4th and 31, converting a touchdown. Unbelievable. I don't think that continues. I think Georgia is able to get this one done.
Okay, knock Alabama possibly out of any hope for a CFP if Georgia can win that one. Now to the Big Ten title game. Second time in the last 3 years, Iowa will meet Michigan and Indy. This time an even bigger underdog than in 2021. Wolverines are 23-point favorites. Matt, can the Hawkeyes shock the college football world on Saturday?
I actually do believe so. I think if we can hold Michigan to under 17 points, I think we have a legitimate opportunity. I think we could win 17-14 or 17-10, 13-10. It's going to be really tough against that Michigan offense, but I do think if we're able to hold them, kind of like how we do almost literally everybody else, I think we'll have an opportunity.
So maybe not lighting it up on offense, but you do like Iowa in that one. I mean, it's tough to pick them against a Michigan team that's a powerhouse like this, but
I'm also not going to come on here and not pick Iowa.
I kind of had a feeling that'd be the case. Well, that does it for Week 13 of Eye on the Hawks. Scan the QR code on the screen to download, subscribe, and listen to the Eye on the Hawks podcast. We have a preview podcast up and also have an extended version of the show that you're watching right now, ready for download. It's available wherever you get your podcast. Please like, subscribe, and follow along for all of our videos on the Iowa's News Now YouTube page, and follow our Eye on the Hawks Twitter account for exclusive videos and links to all our live streams. We want to thank Matt VandeBerg again for joining us on Eye on the Hawks this week and throughout the season. Been a huge help for us, Matt. Thanks again for joining us, and good luck with your podcast the rest of the way.
I appreciate you having me.
All right, thanks, and have a great week, and enjoy the Big Ten Championship.